Hi everybody, my name is Jerry Wise and I'm a life and relationship coach. I've been helping people for over 40 years, many years. I'm a marriage and family therapist, pastoral counselor, chemical dependency therapist, psychiatric therapist, pastor. I've worn many hats. And now I'm a life and relationship coach and have clients all over the world. And I'm excited to bring you this new program today. Also, I use a Bowen Family Systems approach as well as some other theoretical approaches as well. But primarily a family systems approach to help people differentiate. To self-differentiate. And I consider that self-differentiation kind of an advanced form of recovery. And so I've used that for many years. What I'd like you to do today, if you would, subscribe to my channel, use the button to subscribe to my channel. You also can click the bell, which then will notify you when new videos come out. And if you'd like to join the memberships here on YouTube, you can get exclusive content. And then we're going to be having merchandise, which we've already started that store. We're going to have merchandise that you can purchase for discounted rates. So those things will be coming. I work with adult children of alcoholics, adult children of narcissists, many adult issues, codependency, family issues, business problems, organizational problems, and executive coaching as well. I also have a couple of staff members that I've trained over the years, and they are excellent. They're also available. And in addition to that, we have a team also to help people with starting their business, with their websites, with social media marketing, with YouTube production, and YouTube ideas, and we really want your ideas to get out there. And there is a reason for that. I don't make any money off that part of the business in helping people get started with their own businesses online. I would like to see the world change, and I don't have that many years left. I hope I'm going to be here for a while, but I would like to leave the world in a better and different place. And I think these are some ways that I can do that. This program today is entitled How Not to Change as a Codependent. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, so I understand that. But tongue-in-cheek helped me when I was recovering in my codependency for many years. And in my codependent recovery, that sometimes I needed to laugh, or sometimes I needed to see the absurdity of the things that I had done. Because my paradigm was so set that I couldn't see it. Also, I was also very over-serious as a codependent. And so I thought today I wanted to tell you or share 22 ways in which you should, to give you wisdom about how not to change as a codependent. I spend all my life trying to help people change. I'm going to share with you how not to change. Firstly, don't change the paradigm. Don't change your paradigm. Only make pseudo changes within the same box. Don't think outside the box. In other words, if we use the same box to discover a solution to a problem, then we're only going to shift around in the box. That's why we talk about thinking outside the box. You really do have to think outside the box, so we have to learn more to do that. But to not change, continue thinking the way you have always thought. And continue to not look outside for new information that will help transform your life. Number two, focus on content and not the process. Focus on the problems and not what's going on. What's afoot, as in what Sherlock Holmes, I think, the game is afoot, meaning it's happening, this game. And so what's afoot? Don't look at what's afoot, just focus on the problems. I think about having a toddler who, and I know those of you who have children and young children, and I know you've done this before. They're over there by the TV and they're banging on a drum or banging on a pan or something like that, and it's irritating, and you'd like that problem to go away. And then you hear nothing, and you're going, what? I wonder what that's about. And then they're over there messing with the TV, which you have asked them not to touch the TV, not to, get near it, not change the channels. And so as soon as you see the drum, know they've been messing with the TV, then you, and also particularly when you hear them as they're quiet, I wonder what's afoot. I wonder what's going on. And I know you've done that with your kids. We want to do that with our relationships too. But if we're going to continue in our codependency, we don't want to see what's afoot. We want to just focus on the problem, on the content, not the process of what's happening. Always react out of anxiety, or continue to react out of anxiety. Don't respond, just react all the time to when you get reactive. If you continue to do that, then you will not change as a codependent. Remember, number 4, to feel, only don't think. So feel only. That's the main thing. Stay in your feelings. I'm definitely one who believes staying in feelings and learning about our feelings are very important. But that doesn't mean I want you to stay in your system's feelings or reactive feelings. That's where it's problematic. I believe feelings are very important. But stay in your feelings and be reactive to them. And don't think, just react. And it also ends up giving us that feel-think experience where we bring together feelings and thinking process and they just ping off of each other rather than separating them out. And more mature individuals will have feelings and they will have their thoughts. And the more those are separated out, the less enmeshed they are, the healthier they become. So as us codependents, our feelings and thinking is all baked into the cake batter. And unfortunately, years ago, I used to love to eat cake batter. Maybe I can share that with you as well. I love chocolate cake batter. And I don't know if I'm the only one who would do that, but that's one of the things I liked. And so the cake batter would have all those different ingredients, feelings, thinking, and they would just be all mixed in one bowl. And that's what we have as codependents. And if we want to not change, then keep that same mix. Fifthly, let your feelings and reactivity guide you. In other words, let that feel-think guide you. Let that reactivity guide you in what you do. Because if you do that, then we won't change. Sixthly, work to raise the anxiety of others. For example, using bad timing and expose issues in inappropriate ways. So be sure to raise the anxiety of other people because that will keep you very reactive, and then it will be this soup of a mess of emotional field. The emotional field will just be filled with anxiety, and nobody will be thinking, nobody will be calm, nobody will be differentiated or mature. So be sure to raise issues at the wrong time when there's the greatest amount of anxiety, or you can create the greatest amount of anxiety. Seventh, always choose others first. Never choose yourself. Keep choosing others first and do it with gusto. That way we won't change and we will not change our codependency. Always choose others. Eighth, stay unaware of your needs, feelings, and identity, or choices, or preference. Always keep that a blind spot for you. And continue to say, well, I don't know what my feelings are. I can't identify what I want or my needs. Oftentimes it's not a can't, it's I'm not ready to identify those. And that an unwillingness to identify those. There's only one person who knows your needs, and that's you. So I can't go ask somebody else what my needs are. I will have to do the work of my own needs. But to stay codependent, be sure to stay ignorant of those things. Never look at those things. Never explore those things. And keep saying you can't, and keep saying, I just don't know. Remember, often when I don't know, it means I'm not ready to know yet, or I'm unwilling to know yet. Ninth, try very hard to get others to change so you can lower your anxiety and their anxiety. Always put the lowering of your anxiety on other people and try to get them to change, to perfect them, to fix them, to make them love you more. Always do that so you can lower your anxiety. If you keep doing that, then we will not change as codependents. Always do what others expect of you to lower your anxiety. So always do what others want so it will keep the peace. And so everybody's anxiety will go down. Always keep doing that, and then we won't change. And that will be important that we not. So we want to, again, use that as a way of lowering anxiety. 11, be assertive without taking into account the emotional field, and I've kind of talked about that, all the emotions that are the electric field that runs and connects everyone in your relationships, or how you are operating in this relationship system, or the underlying emotional process. For example, don't take into account, we're at a family dinner and somebody says, well, I like this political candidate, and you say, well, I never have, and I don't know why, that I don't believe that. In fact, I have a number of clients who have gotten very frightened about their family has one political view or religious view, and they have others. They have other views. And that they will many times raise the family's anxiety while they're trying to be themselves. And I think that's where we need to manage and self-regulate our own calmness. And so we'll drop the bomb in the family, or we'll do it in public. We choose things that just raise the anxiety rather than staying calm and choosing the people we're going to be self with, or make I statements, or share my beliefs. And in fact, for her, I was going, well, why do you even then talk to your family about religion or politics? You're not going to change them. They're not going to change you. That's okay. They may get information from outside, somewhere else, that doesn't need to come from you. And that just because someone makes an opinion or says an opinion, even if it's an ignorant one, at a family situation, doesn't mean I need to correct that. It's not mine to correct. It may not be my view, but I don't need to correct it. That's them. 12. Always look for the negative aspects of relationship problems or disturbances. And we always look to see how this problem causes these negative consequences. And stay focused on that, rather than having a more systems understanding of how does this problem, what is the positive aspects of this problem? How does it serve the relationship? And how does it keep everybody safer or less anxious, or me more anxious and them less anxious? How does this problem function in our marriage, in our friendship, in our sibling or parent relationships, or children relationships? 13, be over empathetic and then be sure to swing over to rejection or judgmentalism. And so what we do is we become overly sympathetic, overly empathetic, and then after a while we'll swing back over here to being resentful, judgmental, or what was I saying? Or rejecting. And we'll be kind of rejecting. And then we'll swing back and forth. So always be over this and over that with a hyphen, over hyphen. 14, work to be different while not being responsible for self or a responsible I. In other words, you may also want to be responsible for everything. And you may try to work out being different, but you're blind to how you're contributing to the dysfunction of the relationship. I'm not saying you should be blamed. It's not a blaming. It's how we function. It's neutral. It's not a blaming situation. But if you want to not change as a codependent, then don't take any responsibility for how you function in the relationship, or take all the responsibility for how you function in the relationship. 15, only see people as normal or normal with a problem, and see only the good in people. Now, having come from a pastoral background, I was a pastor and a bishop for a number of years. And certainly I taught to love your neighbor as yourself, love other people. I believe that. But not everyone is a good person. Now, they may be created by God, those of you who have religious and spiritual faith. I understand that. But that doesn't change the fact that some people are really unwell, and some people are really broken, disordered, or maybe a cluster B, the narcissist, borderline, sociopathic. There are folks who have those type of problems, a lot more than we'd like to admit. But the best way to stay codependent is only see people as they're just normal, they just have a little problem. I know a daughter who had a very malignant narcissistic mom, and she would always see her as, well, she's just a normal person and she just does these bad things. No, she's not just a normal person who does these bad things. She is really unwell, really, really unwell. And that's the way I saw everyone also, as in practicing my codependency. 16, work hard to save everyone but you. Spend all of your time giving, and work hard. Try to save everyone, but don't save you. 17, always talk in codependent muddle. Never say what you mean, never say what you want, need, or desire in a calm way. Never do it that way. Always talk in codependent muddle. And I wish I had some more examples of codependent muddle. I've been listening to different folks, and I'm trying to write down the codependent muddle that we hear, which is in which people don't really tell you what they want to do. Much like when you say, hey, is there something would you like to go out to eat? Yes. Where would you like to go? As we're the codependent asking them where they'd like to go, and they say, well, wherever you'd like to go. That's codependent muddle. Because what I could say is, well, I'm feeling like going to a Mexican restaurant. But I'm certainly open to going other places. But you asked me where I'd like to go there. But I can go to other places and other restaurants with different food. But at least I'm clear. I'm not just muddling and doing that codependent muddle talking. 18, never inconvenience anyone. Never inconvenience anyone. Avoid that like the plague. You know, we always inconvenience people. We're always being inconvenienced. And I have people that ask me, let's say they'll need a session or they're having a problem, they'd like coaching. And let's say it's like, well, they got to meet with me at 8 p.m. in the evening. And say, is that inconvenient for you? You know what I tell them? Yeah. But so what? I can choose that. So you don't have to worry about my inconvenience. I'll worry about that. If I didn't want to give it that time to you, I wouldn't. Or people will say, well, won't that be an inconvenience if you do that? I'll go, yes. And that's okay. You know, that because I'm accepting that others can be inconvenienced and I can be inconvenienced. And that's perfectly normal. And that's human. Rather than I want to make sure I never inconvenience anyone. And that's the codependent mindset. 19, always be responsible for the feelings of others, especially how they feel about you and especially how they feel about everything. Always be responsible for the feelings of others. If someone feels a certain way about you, you should be responsible for that. Of course, if we do that, you know the problems that happen when that happens. And in fact, now I'm only like, I don't know, it's always difficult. 99%, I am not 99% responsible for your feelings. There may be a few instances in which there could be a case, but I'm still not inside you. So I'm not responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for your feelings. But make sure you remain responsible for everyone's feelings. Make sure they feel good. Make sure they don't feel bad. Always work at that. And that will be exhausting, but it will keep you in place as a codependent. 20, take everyone seriously. Always be over serious. And be sure to take things personally. We always take everyone seriously. And there are lots of comments, people, experiences we should not be taking seriously. Even if they are negative towards us. Let's say you're in a narcissistic relationship, your narcissist calls you stupid. I hope you don't take that seriously. Because if you do, then you see them as a normal person with a problem, rather than a person who's disordered, not well, and very toxic and dangerous. But we'll look at them and go, well, that they think I'm stupid, that really hurts me. Why would something ludicrous hurt you? And in the videos I've used, they called you a Coca-Cola. Why would you take that seriously? Because you're not stupid. Probably you've been overfunctioning for who knows how long. Stupid people don't overfunction. 21. Be sure to absorb everyone's beliefs, feelings, thoughts, and anxiety so that you don't observe and seem cold and distant and mean. So be sure to absorb everybody and the whole family system and the whole emotional field. Be sure to just absorb it, because then you'll feel like you're one of everybody, even if it's a uncomfortable role to play. Be sure to absorb all of that, because if you observe rather than absorb, they will think you cold, distant, or mean. So be sure to absorb everything around you. 22. When dealing with difficult people, always stay in your feelings. Be sure to stay in your feeling system when you're dealing with difficult people. That will help us to continue to be codependent. And of course, the opposite is stay in your thinking system, not your feeling system, when dealing with difficult people. But if we want to stay codependent and how not to change, always stay in your feelings when you're dealing with difficult people. I hope you'll subscribe today to this channel. Click the bell, click join to become a YouTube member. And I hope you'll follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have calls, monthly calls that we make for members on my website. So I have YouTube members and I have website members. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise. Hey, hi everybody. I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes, see if some people join me for this live. It's another one of those short lives I wanted to do this week. But I think I might go ahead and get started, and maybe some people will join us here. And at least I know there'll probably be some people who will be watching it after the fact. This live is entitled Building a Strong Sense of Self After a Dysfunctional or Toxic Childhood. And I thought that would be a good topic for a brief talk tonight, for me to do a little talking. And I do apologize to anyone who is hoping we would give some heads up for the live broadcast, and we will be doing that. We just couldn't get that done today. So again, if you happen to miss this, then you can always watch it after it goes up live, or goes up as a recording. Building a strong sense of self after a dysfunctional or toxic childhood. I want to welcome you to my live today. I want to thank you for joining me. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm here to share with you how to heal from trauma of growing up in a toxic family and build a strong, true self. And I think that's often what we get robbed of in growing up in dysfunctional families, is having a strong and true self. That gets pushed down, that gets roughed up, that gets abused, that gets negated, that gets ignored, that gets punished. And so it is not easy for us as children when we grow up in dysfunctional families to develop that strong, true self. I don't think it's too late or ever too late to develop a strong, true self. So I tell people this all the time. And over the past 45 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world who've grown up in narcissistic, alcoholic, abusive, or emotionally immature families or households. If you're someone who can relate to this, then I hope this live stream will be helpful for you. The title of this live stream is Your New Road to Self, which is also the name of my new 6-week self-paced online program. I want to help you on your journey towards self-differentiation, self-healing, self-growth. And this program that I have developed is a culmination of my 45 years I've put into this program that will be starting very shortly. And I hope you will go to the website or a link below and check it out. There are plenty of extras and gifts and things that are going along with the program. And I really think if you've ever thought about learning about self-differentiation and learning about relationships and what's going on in your life, this is the program for you. And if you want to become more of a true self, your real self, Growing up in a toxic family can leave you feeling lost, helpless, and disconnected from ourselves, certainly. You may have developed a pseudo-self based on the opinions and expectations of others, including your family members. You may feel like you have to put on a facade to fit in, or that you have to constantly seek approval or validation from others. And all of that is the work of the super self in us. Excuse me, the pseudo self. I'm sorry, that's our pseudo self adapting to others to be a self. If you're not happy, then I'll try to make you happy so I can be happy. But that is a pseudo self way of living when we do that. Often we talk about the Wi-Fi system, and I talk about that often in the family and how to break free from it. And in my program, I talk about this as well and go into great depth. Dysfunctional families are like cults. Everyone follows the system subconsciously. It can be difficult to break free from this super self, this family super self, but it's not impossible. If you can recognize it, see how you're functioning in it, you can begin to find new ways to do a new you. And I think for me, those ways were not available. Nobody was teaching much of those ways back when I was in the beginnings of recovery, and then got hooked up with a family systems approach, and I've never been the same. And I did not even totally fully believe everything I read until I did it. And I realized how much it had a transforming effect on me. I certainly had tried many, many different other ways. The super self, or the family hypnosis, or family trance, was needed when you were an infant, or else you could become psychotic. If we don't have that super self, if we don't have that enmeshment when you're an infant, it's real problematic if you don't. If you continue in that same hypnosis and family trance on into adulthood, then you're going to have problems. And then you'll become psychotic in another way. You'll break down and have a nervous breakdown. As you grow up, we need to become more independent and be our true selves. This is no different than an embryonic cell or an unspecialized cell. In dysfunctional families, we are specialized people. Then we are unspecialized people, then we become a specialized person, our true or real self. So we start out kind of undifferentiated and kind of unspecialized. We're an embryo. And I realize we are unique in that way, but then we become even more unique, and then we become even more specialized. And when I say specialized, I mean more of a sense of self. That's when we become more specialized. I get to know me. Well, if you grew up in a dysfunctional family, that was probably not taught very well for you, and was probably strongly discouraged. Because generally dysfunctional families tend to lean towards enmeshment, codependency, and those kinds of problems, rather than how can we help you be your own person with our support, your own wants and needs, with some appropriate age-appropriate guidance, with, and that kind of balance, rather than, well, you just be the family and then you'll be fine. Just do everything you've learned and then everything will go fine. Well, it doesn't. That's part of the problem. Family enmeshment wants you to stay childlike and glued emotionally to the family. They do not want you to specialize and become a true self apart from them. And that's what cells do. You will end up specializing, and there may be different chemicals, hormones, or whatever that pass between cells, but they still have an outside to them. They still have their own sense of self and function as that kind of cell. Well, we want to be able to do the same thing, and we want to be our own selves and our own cell. But always knowing, just like all cells are still connected, but we want to be connected in a healthy way. And we have the choice to not be connected in an unhealthy way. We have that choice as adults. Let me check real here. Let's see, I wanted to, in a minute I was going to answer a couple of questions. And certainly this is about getting your core identity. And see, I don't want my core identity to be the family of origin core identity. And that's the Wi-Fi, the hypnosis, the programming, all of that comes with it. And when I talk about that, and I think as you work with this, and as I work with those in my program, and to help them to understand, once you start to get it, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. And you're going to start sensing and feeling how you function in this system. And then you'll have a little more objectivity and go, oh, this doesn't feel like the real me. This feels like what I'm supposed to do, not what I choose to do or want to do, or would be healthy for me, healthy for them. This doesn't feel like that. And so you'll begin to recognize that more and more. And I give some exercises and examples and go into depth more in the program about how do you recognize that? How do you recognize your own super self? How do you recognize your own family trance? Do you know what your family trance would be like? And again, what's hard is, if you're in a trance, how do you see you're in a trance outside the trance? And that's the work we have. It's not that it's impossible. It's not even that we have to make that big a change to make a big difference. But you do ask for people to think outside the way they think about everything now. Because the way you think everything now is full of family trance, family dysfunction, family assumptions, family expectations, family normalcy. In other words, if I've been getting mad for the last 60 years, or let's say 40 years, and all I do is get mad, and I was the mad guy growing up at home, let's say, if that was my role. It wasn't, but that we could have that role. And I'm the angry son. That when someone is angry, it's hard to help them to see how that anger plays a role in the family system. They're just thinking, I'm angry because you did something I didn't like. And so they're thinking still inside the box, trying to understand their anger. It's when you can step outside the box, which is what this program I hope will help people do, and look and go, oh, that's why I'm getting angry. That's why I get angry. It's not because they're just goading me or they're bugging me or criticizing me. It's not because of that, because I could ignore all that. That doesn't even have to matter. I see it's because I need to function this way, play this role, be the angry one, so that nobody has to change. Everybody stays the same. And the family is always looking for that homeostasis. Even though it's a dysfunctional homeostasis, they want to keep that homeostasis, equilibrium, always there, so nothing changes it too much. Keep even if they're bad. Known misery is better than unknown joy or success. And I don't know if you've ever thought of that, but most of us will choose known misery because we don't want to risk maybe it'll be worse, when actually maybe it'll actually be better, and that we have to think outside of this misery box to even get to something better. Because the misery box is what's keeping us right here in everything we think, feel, believe, say, do. So, in truth, in a dysfunctional family, you're never allowed to be your own person. You're expected to play a certain role in the family. You are You are expected to play that role, to follow certain rules and expectations, and to never deviate from them, and have certain emotional and mental reactions. And I think of that as kind of my subjectivity. I need to look at the world through the glasses of my family. That's what we have learned. And we were issued those glasses, and you are never to take those off, nor put on any other glasses. What I do in my program is I want to help people put on some new glasses. Then they'll be able to see far more than they ever thought they could see. This expectations from the family that we have certain emotions, reactions, thoughts, beliefs, programming, this can be suffocating, and it can prevent you from truly exploring who you are as an individual. Because what I hear people often ask me, and this is kind of an interesting question, they're inside the box of their family dysfunction. They're operating in the box, which means everything you do, see, feel, think is affected by your growing up and also how you're functioning even now. And so when I ask them, who are you? Who is the real you? If you're inside the box, how are you going to answer that question? I'll tell you what I did. I many times thought I was being the real me. But what I didn't see was I was being, quote, the real me, end quote, inside the family dysfunctional box. And so if I'd either become victim-y or become Viking-like. So I'd be, oh, poor me, I'm being mistreated. Or now I'm going to get reactive and just really tell somebody off. And so which is the real me? Giving in or telling somebody off? Which is the real Jerry? I believe neither one is. But that's the two choices I'd have inside the box. That's why that's so critical. Those are the only two choices I'm going to be seeing, because I'm using the family's way of looking at my problems through their eyes. So I'm going, oh, well, I either need to just give in or I need to put up a ruckus and a revolution. But neither one is true maturity and true health. And so that's why I like to help people. Let's start to learn out here who this person may be in here. But let's get some objectivity so we can help you get there so you can be truly you. Because if I neither was the victim nor was the Viking, then what would be a true self position? What would be an adult, real Jerry position at that point? Well, I have my own criteria for what you need those C options to be. Adult, out of your adult, mature, calm, rational, not overly feeling, not in this situation. There are other places for feelings, but not in terms of guiding my thoughts. That's not the best time to use feelings. And that I accept that they may not change, but I also have boundaries that I can put into place if they don't. And I think that's more of an option C than A or B, victim, Viking. They're just making me miserable, I'm the victim. Or now I'm going to rant and rout, have a tantrum, yell and scream, tell them everything I always wanted to tell them for the last many years. And I'll tell you, it doesn't go anywhere. It just, I mean, it could make things worse. It could traumatize everybody. And I'm not saying that your feelings or your problems wouldn't be traumatizing for them. It might. But that's why I'm one of those that go get your traumatizing feelings, anger, rage, worked out with a professional, a friend, a pastor, a coach, therapist. Work on those things there so that You don't need to confront your family, and you can be you with your family, which could include, boundaries, for sure. So I'm not saying no boundaries. I'm just saying I just haven't found, if I get loud and strong enough, that gets everybody's attention. It may get everybody's attention for a short time, but I'm not sure that it's going to change the emotional field and the emotional process in the family. It's actually probably going to be more of a boomeranging effect rather than actually changing that. One of the ways, and I'll just mention it here, I've got a large segment on it in the program. One way to work on self-differentiation is to master the art of asking self-focused questions instead of other-focused questions. One of the things we learn inside the family crucible, where we all get ground in there like a mortar and pestle, for a pharmacist. One of the things we learn in that box is that we always tend to go towards the quick fix, blame, formulation of the problem. We don't think systems, we think linear. A causes B causes C. Boom, end of question. We don't see A fuels B, B fuels A fuels C, and C fuels A, and A fuels B, and it's all a feedback system going on all the time. And one example, so if we can focus on ourselves instead of others, it may feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable at first. For example, instead of asking the question, how can I get my sister to stop guilting me? How can I get my mom to stop shaming me? How can I get my dad to stop being angry with me? Ask yourself a more self-focused question. All of those were other-focused questions. They were focusing on other people. What is my reactivity when my sister attempts to guilt me? What do I do to regulate me? Not what should she do to stop guilting me. What do I do to stop the guilt? What is my reactivity? What is my self-regulation? And how do I function when my sister tries to make me feel guilty? This shift in focus can help you start to detach from the family super self and focus on your own growth and healing. It's important to remember that the journey towards self-differentiation isn't linear. It's just not A to B, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then we're all done. I wish that was the case. I would have liked that. It's not a linear journey. There'll be setbacks along the way. It's essential to be gentle with yourself and to seek support when needed. You don't have to do this all alone. It isn't done overnight. If you just keep at it, you will find the benefits growing and growing. But breaking free from this family super self isn't easy. It requires a great deal of self-awareness, courage, and a willingness to change the status quo for yourself. You're not even trying to change the status quo for everybody else. The worst thing you can do is try to fix the family. The best thing you can do is fix yourself in the family. Now, if you have to go no contact because the family is abusive or too toxic, certainly those are exceptions. But finding yourself while being connected to the family but still being the adult you is huge for life and for how you will see things. It requires a great deal of self-awareness, courage, and a willingness to change the status quo.
It means facing your fears and taking risks, even if it means going against what you've learned from your family. And it certainly probably will go against what your family has taught. It also means accepting that not everyone in your family may be supportive. But you know, I don't have to tell everybody that very much. Most of them know that's probably not the case. Except many people in recovery are waiting on their family to grow up, waiting on their family to get in recovery, don't wait. There's no need to wait. You just keep working on being you, a healthy you, a recovered you. And again, so many people, or I know there was a monk story that talked about a novice who came to him and said, "How can I evangelize the world?" And the older monk told him, "Find salvation for yourself, and 1,000 will come to know their salvation." And I think that's true in terms of finding yourself first, and it will affect many systems, and it affect everything that you will have be connected to. But as challenging as it may be, the rewards of breaking free from the family super self are immeasurable. You will no longer feel trapped and suffocated by your family's expectation. You'll have the freedom to explore who you are as an individual and to pursue your own dreams and your own goals. You'll also be able to build a healthier relationship with other people based on mutual respect and genuine connection. And perhaps most importantly, you'll be able to develop a stronger sense of self-worth and self-esteem, which can help you navigate life's challenges with greater resilience and greater confidence. Actually, I found a lot of people, when they really do work on their self-differentiation and they're growing in a sense of self in a family systems type of way, that many times they become healthier. They become more true to what they really want in life and what they would choose, not what everybody else would choose. So, if you're ready to break free from the family super self and embark on a journey towards healing and self-discovery, I encourage you to check out my new 6-week self-paced online program. The modules are good-sized modules. So it's not just a little 15-minute talk and you've done. There's a lot of talking in there. You can take it a piece at a time at your own pace. Your new road to self. In this program, I share decades of experiencing helping people heal from the trauma of growing up in a dysfunctional family and provide practical guidance and support for your own journey towards greater self-awareness and self-differentiation. I know there have been some comments. I'm not sure I have caught everybody's. If someone had a question you'd like me to answer, I would consider doing that. And I'm so glad some other people got to join us tonight because the time is a little different. Tonight, I wanted to do it at a little different time. I'll probably be doing another live tomorrow as well. Oh, thank you. You like my shirt? I really like this shirt. This is one of my favorites. It just seems like a happy shirt. I don't know. I like it. And I've got this yellow sweater that can kind of go on top of it. And so if you get chilly, you can put a yellow sweater on there. And I think the SH, I see your comment there, and I think that's a great, it's really powerful if we can, she mentions, or he mentions, he's the persecutor when, I had it right there, when I realize that it helps me remove mentally, emotionally, and watch the circus go by. That's what we want to learn to do, to watch the circus go by. I want to be able to, and I want to be able to observe rather than take in all the emotions, thoughts, and all those things. I don't want to absorb all of that from the family or from others. I want to observe what's going on. And well, I appreciate that you saw my other video on other focused versus self-focused. I just think so many times we don't even realize how other focused we are. I've even had recovery people come to me and go, well, I'm not really codependent. I had a messed up childhood, or my father was an alcoholic, or, they'll say they had dysfunction. There was no doubt. Maybe there was some physical abuse. But when it comes to, so they'll say, I'm not codependent, but all of their questions and most of their statements are other focused. I'm not shaming them for that. I have done that as well. So it's not about shaming them, but it's just not realizing that, wait a minute, you're much more other focused than you realize, whether you're codependent or not. You're always asking, how do I get my dad to stop? How am I going to deal with this sister of mine? How am I going to deal? And I'm going, do you know the only person you have to deal with is you? Now, I'm not saying cut off everybody. I'm not saying don't talk to anybody. I'm not saying go live on an island. What I'm saying is, if someone's causing a problem, the only person I've got to work on is, how am I going to function? What am I going to do? And that I have control over. I don't have control whether they're going to stop or not. I can ask for them to. I can set boundaries. I can even distance myself if I need to. Certainly that's totally appropriate. But it's me I've got to work on. And people come to me, and I work with people who are in business too, and executives and presidents of companies, and just how they deal with their employees and their associates and management. And so many times, again, they will say, well, I just don't know what I should do with the company. I don't know what to do with them. And I said, well, let's stop doing anything with them. Let's talk about you. Where are you going? What do you want? Your clarity on that will make a huge difference in the organization. If you're going to focus on the problems, you'll be focusing on problems all the time. If you've got more than 2 people working there, there's always going to be some problems. And so you don't want to be just always in the micro situation where you're just, and I did that for many years as a leader of an organization. And I was just putting out fires all the time. Do you know why I did that? Because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I wanted. So I'm just going all around fixing out fires. And let me tell you, if you have a couple churches you're leading and you have, there's a lot of fires to put out. And unfortunately, that's, is it Maria from Brazil? My associate is from Brazil. He grew up in Brazil, in Santos. I'm so glad that you joined us. Starting to get a hold of how much we other focused rather than self-focused in our questions, and how we formulate the problems. How do I get my husband and I to get along better with regard to the finances? That's an other focused question, and maybe I would have to ask your husband that. Now, what do you want to do with the finances, and what is your goal? What is your desire? What do you need? And so that's at least the better starting place than how can I get someone to understand, or how can I understand yourself really clearly. If I understand myself really clearly, it's far less important to me that other people understand me. If I understand me and go, oh, well, I know what I want. There's no harm. I'm going to do no harm to anyone. This is what I want. And this is where I'm going to stay. Be a broken record. Just say, this is what I'm doing. You can like it, not like it. I mean, that's okay. I'm not trying to harm you. I'm not even trying to weaponize this. I'm just trying to be little old harmless me. That's all I'm trying to be. I'm not a big bad wolf. But I do want to be me. That is what I wish. Let's see here. Do you have a viewpoint? Sorry, got one other question here. Do you have a viewpoint on self-compassion and other compassion as a way to address core shame? I was doing a lot of mindfulness-based work on and found it didn't, influence the core shame. No. Well, I would tend to agree, Richard, if I have your question right. The and shame, self-compassion. I think it's difficult to do self-compassion and self-care if you're shame-based. It's very difficult to do that because why would I? I'm not worth this. Why would I be doing this? And if you do self-compassion, other compassion, while those things I believe are good based on values, because it's important that we have our own values too. Do you value you as a person and that you should be valued? Is that a value of yours? Do you value other people and believe other people should be valued? I believe both of those premises. Not mindlessly. I mean in an adult, mature way. I believe those values. And I'm not sure you're right. That would just fix the shame issue, because I think shame has a different root system in us, and I work with people to help them stop that shame cycle. And in fact, I even do talk about that in the program as well. Because shame's kind of an interesting thing. I definitely understand how it feels. There is no doubt. And that I'm not sure that, but see, just like we were saying, self-compassion and other compassion, when I joined the church, that was to do good for everybody and me. But you're right, it didn't fix the shame. And so, was that a bad thing to do? No, I don't think it was a bad thing to do. But it's not the fix that I needed. That wasn't the fix. And then we can talk later, maybe I can talk later about more of the fix. But I wanted to share at least some of these things with you, and I hope, Richard, that's a little help. And I could probably talk longer, but I've probably talked your ear off already. I hope you'll look into the online flagship program that's coming up. Get the pre-launch discount with all of the benefits and all the extra things that come with it. And I hope you'll check that out. I really think a lot of people would save themselves a lot of years of therapy and a lot of therapy dollars taking this program. I wish I'd had it. I truly do. And that's partly why I'm doing it. That's exactly why I'm doing it. That's why I started doing videos. I didn't make anything from making videos. Absolutely nothing. Because I felt it was so important that people know these things. And so I thought, well, I like talking about it. This is an area of specialties for me, so let me share these things. They can take what they can use and leave the rest. Well, I will probably be having another live tomorrow, and I hope you will join me also. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I appreciate you spending this time with me. Hope you have a great day, and be wise. Learning to respond non-reactively to toxic people and dynamics. We first need to learn to offer mature, non-reactive responses. It is an art of being mature. Secondly, it's important to learn to respond outside the box or outside the expected. Don't choose what is already programmed into us, automatic choice A or automatic choice B. When we become adults and learn to become more adults, we then are able to learn an option C. Thirdly, accept them as not you. Stay on your side of the relationship tennis net or the tennis court. Fourthly, differentiate in the response. You be different in the response than either what's expected or what they think you should be. And fifthly, respond rationally versus emotionally. I hope you'll subscribe, like, comment, and join the channel. I help you to outgrow, overcome, and move beyond your dysfunctional dynamics. We also respond to your comments and questions on YouTube. Number 1, learning to offer mature, non-reactive responses is an art of being an adult. Many folks who grow up in healthy families, that has been more programmed into them to respond in adult, mature ways with an appropriate amount of detachment, matter-of-factness, less pinging, less enmeshment. But those of us who grew up in dysfunctional families didn't get all that. So we have to learn the art of being mature in our responses to others. Giving non-reactive, thoughtful responses is a normal part of being a healthy, recovered adult. When someone says to me, I really think I've grown a lot, boy, I finally was able to tell my mother off because she said something and I responded and told her off, and I'm going, are you sure that's a healthy, recovered adult you were using in responding to your mom? I'm not saying your mom's not frustrating, mean, narcissistic, or whatever she is, but your mom can get you to tell her off. I don't want anyone to get me to the point of telling them off. That means I am way too pinged. And so when we're learning to be a healthy adult and giving thoughtful, non-reactive responses, this includes remaining detached, not triggered or pinged, allowing them to be them and you to be you, accepting and expressing your difference in perspective, having no expectations of them changing, making the choice to just be you in thoughts and feelings. There is no hint of argumentativeness or defensiveness. This is just simply the way it is for me, in a matter-of-fact way. Because if we're arguing, we're already generally not mature. If we're being defensive, we're already more choosing an immature detour or an adult detour in an immature way. So we want to not be argumentative or defensive. Because the art of being a healthy adult, you don't have to do those. I don't want to do those. I'm not going to stick around for those. Secondly, it is important to learn to respond outside the box or outside the expected. If you're an adult child or come from a dysfunctional family, don't choose the programmed automatic A or B choice, choose the C choice. And I train people day after day after day about C choices, choosing a choice C. And I'll explain what I mean. When someone is dysfunctional in how they relate to you, they are expecting a certain response from you. Often A, compliance or agreement, or B, conflict and reactivity. I do not like to give either. I want to give C, neither of those. This takes practice, particularly if you've grown up in a dysfunctional family and had dysfunctional relationships. You can practice your responses before you even get into the situation. You typically can predict the questions, confrontation, and initial responses of others in your dysfunctional or in your healthy circle, either one. We have come to know these folks, and you know your family, you know what they're going to ask you. You know what they're going to complain about. You know what they get uptight about. So practice your responses ahead of time for when you get those responses from them. Here are the A or B responses. When Mary asks you to go out with someone you don't really enjoy being with, but Mary expects you to go, and she's a pretty good friend of yours, do you ignore her? Do you get reactive and argue with her? Do you feel guilty and don't want to disappoint her? Then you just immaturely lie or make false excuses, saying, oh, I can't really do that. I'm busy right now, and I just can't. Or is it possible for us to say, I don't really choose to do that? That's more of a C response. And that is a C response. Hey, Mary, well, I'm going to give you some examples of how you respond to Mary. This is a C response to that type of situation. Neither running for the hills and hiding so that Mary's not upset and so that the friend doesn't know you don't want to go out with her and Mary. Then we'll kind of hide, we'll not be an adult, or we'll just make up an excuse, oh, I'm busy that night, I just can't go. But as you well know, that doesn't resolve the problem because you may get asked again and again and again, and you have to keep lying, keep hiding. So if we take the easier way out, oh, well, I'm busy that night, then we're going to have to do an I'm busy that night many times in the future. And I think that becomes uncomfortable. It did for me, for sure. Sally says, Mary, I know you would like me to join you, and you'd like me to join you and Betty for that evening. I'm just not a big fan of Betty's. Or I might say, Mary, if it was a different friend, I might feel differently. And if you notice, I'm not shaming Betty. I'm not trying to criticize her. I'm also not trying to get Mary all involved in my relationship with Betty, because maybe we haven't got along well. Maybe Betty's been disrespectful or kind of a pain. And I don't really enjoy spending my time going out. And by the way, life has only so many minutes in it. I get to decide who I'm going to spend that time with. That's very important for me. And if I don't want to spend that time with someone, I have a right to do that. I don't owe someone that I have to spend time with them if they don't treat me well or we don't get along well. I might say to Mary, I would prefer to have us go out together, you and I sometime, or maybe with a different friend. And I really appreciate you inviting me. That's more honest, more authentic than Mary already picks up. There's no sense asking you in the future again to have you come out with her and Betty. Or we may also give another response in a mature way. Hey, Mary, thank you for inviting me. I had another idea for that evening. Maybe you, me, and Sarah, not Betty, or just you and me go out that evening. But if you've already invited Betty, that's no problem. We can plan something for us at a later time. Do you see how that's diplomatic, mature, responsible? It gives Mary, she has freedom to go do whatever she wants with Betty if she wants, but you would just prefer not to. You're suggesting an alternative if she hasn't asked Betty yet. Maybe Sarah and you and me can go out rather than Betty, you and me. So you're giving an alternative, but if she's already asked Betty, then now here's where it becomes more sticky when we're going to be an adult. Mary then asks, well, what do I tell Betty when she asks me why you didn't want to go? That's always a fun response. I like to educate and train people how they could respond when I tell them, well, Mary, you could tell her, hey, she can ask me. Mary, just tell Betty, hey, if you want to know, you can just check with Sally. Or you could say, I think my friend was looking for a different type of evening tonight, so she's not going to join us. Or you could say, Mary, if you want, Sally stated she is not as comfortable enjoying the evening with the three of us. Maybe that's something you should talk to Sally about, Betty. And again, if she wants to state, because I'm not lying about how I feel, I don't have to pretend that I have a perfect or great relationship with Betty. I don't have to pretend that. I don't have to be mean, shaming, critical, deriding. I don't have to do anything. It's just my preference. And I'd rather not do that. And if Sally, I'm Sally.
If Betty were to call me and ask me, well, why didn't you want to go? Well, Betty, that's just what I preferred. I would have preferred a different type of evening. Well, don't you like me? Well, now that's a whole nother conversation we can either have sometime if you'd like, but I may not really want to have that conversation. And so I just have my own preferences and a limited amount of time I can socialize. Here's another example of A, B choices and then doing a C option. Mom asked me, why don't you come and visit me more often? A choice. I don't know why you keep bugging me to come and visit you so often. I don't enjoy it, so stop it, Mom. That's an A choice. Reactive. Upset, angry. She's touching the inner child in me and triggering my little child in me from long ago. A B choice. Well, I've just been busy with work and my family, so I haven't been able to come see you more often. And again, that's more of a lie and an avoidant response. I can give her that. You can respond any way you want to respond. I'm just telling you what might help you gain greater self-confidence, self-esteem, self-differentiation, self-awareness. You can lie and do avoidant responses all you want. That's your choice. I can do that too. I have done many of those things. But I'm trying to mature myself where I can actually don't have to lie and I don't have to give avoidant responses. And so that was an A response, a B response. Now what's a C response, which is a more mature, self-differentiated response? Mom, I know you've wanted me to come and visit you more often for a long time. However, I've chosen visiting you once a week as the frequency of our visits, and I'll probably stick to that. I'm saying this in a calm, matter-of-fact, non-reactive way. I understand, Mom, that it may not be your preference or what you want, but it is my preference, and I hope you will be understanding. Then if she's understanding, that's great. If she's not understanding, I don't care. That's her upsetness. It's not my upsetness to fix. I've been responsible. I've been appropriate with her. If she's going to get upset, then she can just get upset. And I'm not going to absorb her upsetness. I simply may observe it. Again, I hope you'll subscribe, like, comment, and join the channel. We do respond to your comments and questions, and my work is here to help you outgrow, overcome, and move beyond your family dysfunctional dynamics. Thirdly, accept them as not you. Stay on your side of the relationship tennis court or tennis net. Think of your relationship as a tennis court. You are on one side of the net, they are on the other side, playing. Rules they play their side of the game, you play your side of the game, and we respect the boundaries and the net. We grew up in families where we are all on the same side of the net emotionally. Or I am on their side of the net emotionally and mentally by being parentified. Parentified is a messed up tennis court and tennis net where I'm over here, you're over here, and we have a net in the middle. Some detachment, some respect, some differentiation there. In dysfunctional families, we're all on one side of the net, we're all on the other side of the net, or we may have even just gone clear out of bounds and left the whole tennis court altogether. Remember, that is your side, this is my side of the court. I am the only expert on my side of the tennis net. I'm the only one. No one in my family, no one anywhere in the world knows my side of the tennis net like I do. That doesn't mean I don't listen to other people or get advice, or I have windows into my side of the tennis net. That's fine. I want to learn, I want to grow, and people may reflect in ways who would like to help me in a positive way. Of course I'll listen. But I still have to decide what I'm going to do with that information, because I have to integrate it into my only awareness of my side of the tennis net, my life. Nobody else can do that. Nobody else is living my life but me. Sometimes I wish other people would, but I think that's an impossibility. So I use this analogy as a visual map to map out my relationships and evaluate my responses and where I'm at. And I'll use it. Hey, am I over on their side of the net? Are they over on my side of the net? And then how do I need to respond to that to ask them to be on their side and for me to stay on my side? A friend asked me, I need your financial help, Jerry, with my car. I know I ask you a lot about financial help
a lot of times, but I really need it now. I may respond, you need to stop asking me. You need to get a better job that pays more. Why don't you ask your family for some help? And then they respond, well, if that's the way you're going to be, I'm never going to ask you ever again for help. Believe it or not, I had that actually happen not long ago. Now, when I gave my response, where was I on the tennis net? Was I on my side or was I on their side? I was on my friend's side. You need to stop asking me. You need to get a better job that pays more. Why don't you go ask your family? I'm all over up in his business, trying to direct his life so that I will be more comfortable. But I'm over on his side of the tennis net. And then in some ways, he's on my side of the tennis net because he's always asking for money and isn't taking that full responsibility for his life. And he believes that whatever my priorities are, I always have money. Well, I may have money, but I have priorities for that. Taxes, retirement. He doesn't know what has to go into that. Helping my own family. I mean, there's all kinds of priorities. So I was on his side of the tennis net when I gave my response. I was pinged, triggered, reactive, defensive, wanting him not to be the way he is, wanting him to stop that, giving him advice, blaming or shaming him for asking me so often or so much. And I can even visualize me being over on his side of the tennis court. How do I get on my side with my response in a healthy adult way? First of all, I want to be non-reactive, calming, calmer, and matter of fact. I want to be non-advice giving or fixing. I want to be non-blaming or shaming, even though I am irritated by him. But again, why am I irritated? He's asking me for something. I have a right to say yes or no. But I'm concerned that if I say no, he's going to be upset with me. And a good codependent, you never want anybody upset with you, ever, ever, ever. So I might want to respond in an option C way, or me being on my side of the tennis net. Hey, Bob, we'll call him Bob. Hey, Bob, sounds like you're in a financial spot. I'm sorry, Bob, but I don't have the solution for you this time. I hope you understand. Or, I'm sorry, Bob, but I have other financial priorities that come first right now. Sorry to hear you are in a tough spot. And again, my financial priorities may be I'm saving for a vacation that he can't do, but I can. But do I have a right to earn my own money and pay for a vacation if I want to? Or should I never pay for a vacation and give it all away to the Bobs of the world? I can't do that. That's not a healthy way to live. Number 4, differentiate in the response. Remember, always to differentiate or be your difference in the response. Let's take a real basic one. They might say, Jerry, you are stupid. Let's do a nice, hard, stupid one here. And I might say, and I'm starting with the differentiation. Well, I don't know that, Jerry. Or, I might be sometimes, as we all are. You sometimes all are stupid. Okay. But I am not understanding your purpose in saying this. And I often have said, I don't know that, Jerry. You don't love me. I don't know that, Jerry. I don't know a Jerry who doesn't love you. I know a Jerry who might say no, or I know a Jerry who could even be insensitive at times, but I don't know a Jerry who doesn't love you. I don't know that Jerry. You must know a Jerry, but I don't know that Jerry. So we're different. I'm sorry. And this is my side of the tennis court. You're having a different experience on your side. And with Bob, I have other priorities than what his priorities are. I also don't know all the ways in which he has spent his money, so he's now in a financial difficulty because he probably has not spent his money wisely. And now all of a sudden, his crisis or lack of foreplanning or saving or spending his money becomes now my crisis, an emergency. And no. And my hunch is that's probably what has happened. And with Bob, I don't have a solution for you at this time. That's a difference between us. With Sally, who is me, that's right, I was invited. I have another plan for that evening. This is just not something I would prefer. If you notice, I'm stating a difference. And so that differentiation is very important in formulating good, mature responses. With Mom visiting, she thinks the visits are not often enough. That's her thinking on her side of the tennis net. I think the frequency is just fine. Again, we are different. You're not bad for wanting it. I'm not bad for not wanting it. We are different. And I'm going to own my own difference with you. Fifthly, we want to respond rationally versus emotionally. When dealing with difficult people, focus on your thinking more than focusing on your feelings and emotionality. With adult children, we tend to get emotionally flooded. And we're also flooded with our own feelings and our own system's feelings. And it just becomes overwhelming. And then we try to give responses to people. That doesn't work very well. Difficult people are experts at triggering and pinging emotionally, both consciously and unconsciously. If you are triggered, work hard at ignoring the feelings, let's say from the neck on down, and try to stay in your head if you're trying to give a mature response. You can always deal with your feelings later. We want to avoid what I call the feel-think process, where our feelings are in the driver's seat of our responses and we think we are thinking. But really, our feelings and reactivity is pushing and driving our thoughts, words, and responses. And we think we're actually thinking about it. No, your feelings are just going through your head and you're giving words, but you're not really thinking about it. It's a feel-think process. We're thinking out of our old brain and we're responding out of our old brain. Let me give you an example. Dad says, I just don't know why you can't see how important it is, Jerry, to come to choose your family first and come on July 4th to the dinner as you should. My assumptions before I respond are, I'm not Dad. I'm not my family. I don't believe like you in all things. I have different perspective and values. I choose not to see it that way, and it's okay if I don't see it that way, Dad. I'm okay with compromise. Others often aren't. Hey, I'll come this July 4th, on July 3rd, the evening, but you guys go ahead and meet on July 4th. And next year I'll come on July 4th. Again, kind of a compromise. Now, Dad may not like that. Family may not like that. But so what? They don't like it. They don't like it. This is what I would like to do. You're not running the minutes of my life. I'm running the minutes of my life. I know that's what is expected of me, and I'm very willing to compromise and maybe work around if I'd like to come. But I won't be shamed and guilted into coming on July 4th. Differentiate from the should. I really don't have to do any of the parental shoulds as an adult. I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day and be wise.
Hello, my name is Jerry Wise, and this is a video entitled ACOA Self-Care, Slowing Down the Process. This video is about those of us who have suffered with feeling pressured and hurried in conversation and in the emotional communication process in our marriages, with our family of origin, bosses, virtually anyone that we have come in contact with. The reason why this is such a problem, I believe, and I want to raise this problem, I don't think you're going to see a lot of videos on this topic, unfortunately, but I think it's an important topic. For those of us who grew up in dysfunctional families, for adult children of alcoholics, the difficulties that they had in learning how to process their internal feelings, their thoughts, and be able to communicate that within a conversation and within the communication process within their marriage, it can be very difficult. And oftentimes it goes by way too quickly, way too fast. We feel overwhelmed, and then we can't communicate, don't communicate, and have all kinds of problems as a result. So self-care involves slowing down that process, and you have a right to slow it down. And I wanted to reinforce and affirm that right that you have. And I think one of the ways in which we find ourselves when we are in a process in which things are going by too quickly is when we feel overwhelmed, when we're overreacting, and this can be with someone we really care about. It can even be with folks that we don't care so much about. It could be a doctor or pastor or someone in our lives that we need to communicate with, and maybe they don't have a very healthy communication model or don't know themselves or internal feelings and thoughts very well. And so they will get reactive or hurried, or everything becomes pressured. Then we become pressured, and then we're set up for failure, for explosions, for denying our own sense of self and our own self-awareness. And I think it causes lots of problems for many of us. And I remember learning that skill of slowing down the process was a very important skill to learning self-care. And again, in a nutshell, the process of self-care is I only have to process as quickly as I can process. I do not have to process or to deal with my own thoughts and feelings or deal with the conversation at your rate or at someone else's pace. I neither have to mirror the energy nor mirror the speed when I'm talking with someone. And in fact, now I will purposely slow down the process so that I can catch up with myself. And I think that provides a tremendous amount of self-care for me. Because before, I always would feel pressured and get hurried, not know how I feel, not know how I think, get reactive, and that would cause problems. And it would either reinforce codependency or reinforce counterdependency or reinforce reactivity and cause all kinds of problems within relationships. This video is for those who have struggled with being overwhelmed in relationships or in a conversation with other people who are intense and pushy and whose conversations in which they may even feel bullied. That can be our spouse. Many times spouses will bully us. Friends will bully us. Family members will bully us. In other words, they pressure the conversation. Either they want you to comply or they want you to think the way they think and feel the way they feel. But you maybe haven't even had a chance to know how you feel or how you think about something. And we have felt pressured to have to respond at the pace, at the rate, and at the intensity and mirror what they're doing because we feel that's what we should do. Or we have learned that, for those who are ACOAs, have learned that requirement growing up in an alcoholic or addicted home. You cannot stop and think about your feelings or thoughts. In fact, the 3 rules for the alcoholic home or addicted home is don't think, don't feel, and don't talk. Well, that makes for a real problematic learned process of communication. And how do you think that would affect our marriages? How we communicate with our kids? If our model is don't think, don't feel, don't talk. So what I'm suggesting is slow the process down so you can catch up with yourself and be able to engage another person, no matter how healthy or unhealthy they are, in a healthy conversation for you. ACOAs grew up in an alcoholic or addicted home in which the communication was inconsistent, unclear, confusing. It would get intense to almost non-existent. There would be anger, or it would be manipulative. We may find those same patterns in our own marriages, in our own family of origin as we try to relate to them as adults. And how would this leave us as adults in adult relationships? Feeling overwhelmed, unsure, pressured, and unheard. I believe that those of us who grew up in families with poor relationship models, low self-differentiation, with imprinting that was not very healthy, shame, abandonment, low self-esteem, not learning self-care or what's normal or what rights we might have in communication, all of this cripples our communication process and our skills and how we relate to other people. And this describes the problem. Often we hook up with people and are attracted to spouses in which our relationship soup becomes a mess. And our communication soup is a mess as well. And we are often not aware of our feelings. We will easily feel threatened. We may feel immature. We let others overwhelm us. We allow the process of interaction, which is way, way too fast. Arguments, communication is often experienced way too fast to process and to be heard and to hear others. Just simply slowing it down can help improve communication and help with self-care in valuing me. And this speed that we've come to accept as the speed that we must hold is there, and it sabotages healthy, happy relationships. And of course, we learned this sabotaging from our family of origin growing up. Often, as ACOAs, we are not aware of wants, beliefs, and needs. We have very poor boundaries. We swing from being people-pleasing pacifiers to quiet, anger, or aggressive dominators. So what do we do? Recovery is a slower process, and it takes a while to heal from our past. It may take years to heal as an ACOA. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it doesn't mean all is lost. I think what we can find is if we will choose and begin to work on slowing down the process, it tends to relax us more, calm and disarm others more, and it also begins to build self-esteem, self-differentiation, that, hey, I don't have to communicate the way you think I have to communicate, and the pace in which you think I ought to communicate, and to come up with answers in the speed in which you think I need to come up with them. Maybe I need to process this, and I have to demand and put up boundaries that I get that processing time, because that is my right as a human being. I can't think faster than I can think. I can't feel or become aware of feelings faster than I can become aware of them. And I can't process and express those thoughts and feelings only as fast as I can. And often the communication problems in dysfunctional marriages, for example, ends up being a speed that's going 60 miles an hour in the marriage, but the couple can only actually healthily communicate at about 30 miles an hour, but their communication is at 60. And you can understand how that would cause considerable problems in the relationship. Real change can begin when you can slow the process down to match your ability to feel and to think. Often this is out of sync, and I kind of called this hurried communication. And how many times have you experienced this overwhelmed state in which we feel confused and pressured and unheard? If we are slow at identifying and expressing feelings and thoughts, if we are not sure what we believe or how we think about an issue, if we are not sure what we want to communicate, or if we feel intimidated or overwhelmed, we must choose and learn to stop and process before we proceed. If we don't, this will create many difficulties for ourselves and for the communication process. I actually think when we don't stop and process, then we do a little self-abandonment. We leave ourselves in the dirt and abandon ourselves and what we really need. And I think many abandonment issues come from self-abandonment, which we have learned growing up. Here are some tools for ACOAs to use for slowing down the communication process. Often, we try to change while accepting the speed of communication and relationship interaction, and this creates a lot of frustration and mostly failure. If we do not slow the process down, we respond poorly out of our own weakness and often out of our own unresolved issues. ACOAs grow up in a fast-paced, unhealthy communication pattern with their family of origin. Oftentimes you didn't know what was coming next. You didn't know what was going to happen. What is dad going to be like? What mom am I going to get now? And what kind of communication or what's expected of me in communicating. And often there wasn't a matched communication. In fact, where you were in the process, it didn't matter. You just need to respond and do and think the way I'm demanding of you. And so that became very common. And so we do that today and feel hurried, pressured, and uncomfortable in communicating with others, oftentimes with spouses. ACOAs grow up in an environment in which there may be yelling, intense anxiety, and pressure, and we're required to communicate and talk in this environment. We carried this over to our adult relationships and re-feel it when we communicate with spouses, bosses, friends, pastors, policemen, parents, and even with therapists. We become overwhelmed, emotionally flooded, and then just try to survive. But often we do not communicate our feelings, our wants, or our needs. We just focus on getting the pressure to stop or the overwhelmed feelings to stop. We grew up and have come to learn we must accept the pace, the reasoning, the demands, and the expectations of others when communicating. ACOAs have grown up believing that's what's norm. If someone expects me to know right now, I should know. And what's wrong with me if I don't know? If somebody says, well, what do you think about that? If I don't know, then there's something wrong with me. And why don't you know right now? Because I don't know. I haven't had a chance to think about it. I may need to process it. But for ACOAs, they've got to know right now. The demand is there. They must know it, do it, feel it. And then that becomes a real problem. This is what to think about normal rules for communication. I recommend for ACOAs and adult children of dysfunctional families for slowing down the process of, and in fact, these are also the rules that I have adopted for my own recovery as a codependent. And first of all, kind of a communication bill of rights. And this would be for any relationship. I never have to respond right now. Unless the house is on fire, unless there's blood, I do not have to respond right now. Often there is never a serious urgency, no matter what it is. I do not have to answer any or all questions I am asked. I can answer the questions I want to answer and the way I want to answer them. 3, I also have the right to know the context or the reason for the question before I answer. That's boundaries. That's knowing where I stop and you begin. I can ask to wait before I respond to you. I can say, hold on, I hear what you're saying. I need to process that. I need to think about it. I will get back to you. I need to wait. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm not sure what I think. So we'll have to talk about this again. I don't know. And I have a right to say, I don't know. I never have to accept your premises, your assumptions, or conclusions. I do not have to accept those. I get to have my own. 7, I have the right to my own premises, thoughts, conclusions, and feelings. 8, I have the right to slow things down to accommodate my own mental and emotional process. However slow it is. I may be the slowest person in history. That doesn't matter. I have a right to slow it down to a pace that I can deal with it. A good response for slowing things down can begin with, I understand what you have said or what you're asking. Let me process that or let me think about that. Acknowledge the other person and do self-care for yourself. That's self-processing. Acknowledge the other person and then work on your own self-processing. If I ask to slow things down, I am not being difficult, I'm not being negative or unreasonable. I have a right to process things at my own pace. You do not have a right to demand communication from me. If you think you have that right, we have boundary issues. And of course, many couples who are ACOA and many folks who have grown up as ACOA have boundary issues, and also find someone who has boundary issues themselves. 11. If I am feeling attacked, if I'm feeling reactive, if I'm feeling blamed, if I'm feeling uneasy, if I'm feeling afraid or confused, then I use the response that I mentioned above. I acknowledge what you're saying, I need to process what's going on with me, and we'll talk about this. And I have a right to disengage from the communication. If I'm feeling threatened or afraid or whatever, I have a right to stop. That's what healthy boundaries are. And healthy boundaries mean you accept that from me. If you can't, we've got a problem and we need to go get some help, especially within a couple. If couples cannot accept that from one another, then they need to go talk to a therapist and get some help. Healthy communication and true communication requires feeling safe, heard, valued, respected, and unhurried. I must do the self-care required to accomplish this for me. I hope this video has been of help to you. I hope you will join our YouTube channel. I think we've just passed 100,000 views, which is amazing. I hope you'll join our channel. I hope you'll email me with questions. My email and contact information will be on the screen for you. If you live in the Midwest or Indianapolis area, I'd be happy to see you in the office. If you don't, then I provide Skype therapy through the online, and have a number of clients all over the country who are benefiting from having someone who understands adult children of alcoholic issues. I think it's difficult to find someone sometimes who understands those issues. And I'd like to thank you very much for being patient, watching the video today, and I hope you have a great day.